I'm 32, male, and I work as a software developer. I've always been the quiet, hardworking type, the guy who'd rather spend a weekend debugging code than partying. My brother, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. He's 28, charismatic, and always the life of the party. Let's call him brother. Growing up, our parents often overlooked my achievements in favor of his charm. I didn't mind much, until recently. The tipping point came 2 years ago when I developed an app that skyrocketed in popularity. It was a mental health tracker, something I'd poured my soul into after seeing how hard the pandemic hit people's mental well-being. I worked nights, weekends, every spare moment perfecting it. After launch, it blew up. The app got featured in tech blogs, and within a year, it became a household name. Offers from investors poured in, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my hard work was being recognized. But then brother stepped in. It started innocently enough. At family gatherings, he'd casually mention how we worked on the app. At first, I let it slide. I assumed he was just being proud of me in his roundabout way. Then came the interviews. I found out through social media that brother had done a local news piece, claiming to be the co-creator of my app. My stomach turned when I saw the headline. Innovative duo revolutionizes mental health tech. He'd spun this elaborate lie about how he came up with the idea, pitched it to me, and we worked on it together. The audacity left me speechless. My parents, ever his biggest fans, were thrilled. They gushed about how proud they were of their boys and didn't even question his story. When I confronted him, he laughed it off. "Come on, it's just a little white lie. It's not like it's hurting you," he said, leaning back with that infuriating grin of his. I told him to stop, but he brushed me off. Then it got worse. One day, I received an email from a major investor, a meeting invitation I didn't remember scheduling. When I joined the call, brother was already there. He had used my credentials to set up the meeting. I sat in stunned silence as he pitched my app, using my data, pretending to be the brains behind the operation. When the investor asked for specifics about the app's algorithms, brother floundered. "That's more my brother's expertise," he said, gesturing at me through the screen like I was his assistant. After the meeting, I lost it. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I demanded. He shrugged. "I'm helping you, bro. You're the tech guy. I'm the face. Together, we're unstoppable." I couldn't believe his arrogance. I warned him to back off, but he didn't take me seriously. A month later, I got a cease and desist letter from an attorney claiming I had violated brother's intellectual property. He had somehow managed to file a provisional patent for my app under his name. I was livid. I hired a lawyer immediately. My attorney, a no-nonsense woman who clearly saw through brother's antics, advised me to gather every piece of evidence I had to prove my sole ownership. Thankfully, I had a meticulous paper trail. Source code, timestamps, design drafts, and emails documenting every step of the app's creation. When brother got wind of the legal battle, he didn't back down. Instead, he doubled down. He started a smear campaign online, claiming I had stolen his idea. He went so far as to post fake chat screenshots trying to paint me as the opportunist. The worst part? Some people believed him. Friends, colleagues, even some extended family started questioning my integrity. My parents? They didn't want to pick sides, but their silence spoke volumes. The lawsuit dragged on for months. Brother played every dirty trick in the book. He faked emails, tried to bribe one of my former colleagues to testify against me, and even attempted to plant malicious code in the app to sabotage it. I stayed quiet through most of it, letting my lawyer handle the legal side, but inside, I was seething. This wasn't just about the app anymore. It was about reclaiming my reputation and putting an end to brother's entitled behavior once and for all. And then I struck. During the discovery phase of the lawsuit, my lawyer uncovered a goldmine. Brother had been embezzling money from the small marketing business he managed. He was using those funds to fuel his tech entrepreneur persona, flying out to conferences, whining and dining investors, and buying fake followers for his social media accounts. We tipped off the business owners anonymously, providing irrefutable evidence. Within weeks, brother was fired and slapped with another lawsuit for fraud. But I wasn't done. I compiled a detailed expose of brother's lies, complete with screenshots, emails, and financial records. Then I partnered with a journalist from one of the tech blogs that had initially covered my app. The article, titled The Truth Behind the Tech: How One Man Stole Credit for His Brother's Work, went viral. Brother's online smear campaign crumbled overnight. His followers turned on him, investors pulled out, and his reputation was in shambles. The final nail in the coffin came during the court hearing. The judge ruled in my favor, stating there was overwhelming evidence that I was the sole creator of the app. Brother not only lost the lawsuit, but was also ordered to pay damages and legal fees. After the verdict, he tried to apologize. He called me, crying, begging for forgiveness. But it was too little too late. You didn't just steal my work, I told him. You tried to destroy me. You don't get to come back from that. We haven't spoken since. The app continues to thrive, and I've learned to be more cautious about who I trust. As for Brother, last I heard, he was working a minimum wage job, still trying to spin stories to anyone who'd listen. So, what do you think? Did I go too far? Or did he get what he deserved? Subscribe for more stories like this. You won't want to miss what I've got coming next. After the dust settled, I started to reflect on everything that had happened. For so long, I had let Brother's antics slide. Whether it was him taking credit for my small achievements or turning every family gathering into a performance where he was the star, I always told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But this time, he had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. The fallout within the family was almost as dramatic as the legal battle itself. My parents, who had always treated him like he could do no wrong, were devastated when the truth came out. My father called me after the court ruling, his voice trembling. I don't know how we missed this, son. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to scream at them, to ask why they had enabled him for so long, but I bit my tongue. What was the point? They were as much victims of Brother's manipulation as I was, maybe not financially, but emotionally. Still, their silence during the smear campaign had hurt, and that wound wasn't going to heal overnight. Brother, on the other hand, wasn't just licking his wounds. He was still trying to play the victim. A mutual acquaintance sent me screenshots of him venting on social media, claiming I had ruined his life and that the media had twisted the truth. But the comments under his posts told a different story. People were calling him out, linking to the exposé, and pointing out all the inconsistencies in his sob story. It was satisfying, sure, but also sad. Even when faced with the truth, he couldn't admit what he had done. I thought about confronting him one last time. Part of me wanted closure, to hear him admit he was wrong and apologize in a way that felt genuine. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't happen. He'd always find a way to twist the narrative, to make himself the hero or the victim. That was who he was, and I had to accept that. Instead, I focused on moving forward. I poured myself into the app, expanding its features and growing the user base. I even started mentoring young developers, hoping to inspire them and maybe protect them from people like Brother. One day, out of the blue, I got an email from one of Brother's former friends. He explained that he had cut ties with Brother after the scandal, but wanted to reach out to me. I never realized how much he was taking advantage of you, he wrote. You didn't deserve any of that. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. For so long, I had felt alone in this fight, like no one really understood how much Brother's betrayal had hurt me. Hearing someone else acknowledge it, even a stranger, was oddly comforting. Still, the damage wasn't completely undone. Some relationships were beyond repair. A few friends who had believed Brother's lies during the smear campaign never really came back around. They apologized, sure, but the trust was gone. And my parents? We were on speaking terms, but things were strained. Every time they brought up Brother, even in passing, I felt a pang of bitterness. Months later, I got an unexpected call from my mother. She sounded nervous, almost hesitant, as she asked if I would come over for dinner. It's been a while since we all sat down as a family, she said. I knew what she meant. Brother would be there. I almost said no. The thought of sitting across from him, pretending everything was fine, made my blood boil. But then I realized something. I wasn't the same person I was 2 years ago. I had faced him, exposed his lies, and come out stronger. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. When I arrived, the tension was palpable. Brother looked like a shadow of his former self. No flashy clothes, no arrogant smirk. He avoided eye contact as we sat down, and for once, he didn't dominate the conversation. It was awkward, sure, but it also felt like a turning point. After dinner, as everyone was leaving, brother pulled me aside. "Look, I know I messed up," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to be like you. Successful. Respected. I didn't know how to do it, so I thought if I could just borrow a little of your success, it'd rub off on me. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get, and while it didn't erase the past, it gave me a sliver of closure. "You didn't need to borrow anything," I told him. "You could have just worked for it like everyone else." He nodded, but I could tell he didn't fully understand. Maybe he never would. Looking back, the whole ordeal taught me more than I ever wanted to learn about family, trust, and ambition. I realized that not everyone who claps for you wants to see you win, even if they share your last name. But I also learned that standing up for yourself, even when it's hard, is worth it. So, to anyone reading this, don't let anyone take credit for your hard work. Whether it's a coworker, a friend, or even family, fight for what's yours. And if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.